So Alien Romulus has just come out and it is smashing it at the box office and doing very well critical wise for an alien movie. And these movies, ever since 1986 have never really been that loved, but people love it again. And now it's time to rank every single Alien, Blade Runner, Predator movie, because I know some people don't want to believe it or not, but they all kind of take place in the same universe in a weird connected way, because obviously you have Predator 2, the Xenomorph head, and then you have the AVP movies, and then you have the whole thing where I think Dallas and Alien worked for Tyrell, even though I think Tyrell shut down in Blade Runner 2049, as it explained around the early 2000s, 2030s or 20s. I don't really know. It's a very convoluted universe, but in all the ways they're kind of connected through them being science fiction stories overall. And I know Alien is more horror, Predator is more action, and Blade Runner is more heavily sci-fi, but it has it's more AI and also noir, neo-noir. And I even kind of have crafted these movies into phases. So you have phase one, which I kind of consider it's the beginning phase, which is from 1979 to 1990, and it consists of Alien, Blade Runner, Aliens, and then the first two Predator movies. And then from 1992 to 2007, you kind of have the weird era where they didn't really know what to do with these characters, and that consists of Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. And then you have Paul W.S. Anderson's Soldier, which we'll talk about how that connects. And then you have the two AVP movies. And note, during this phase, you have Joss Whedon's Firefly and Serenity. And people say that they kind of connect in some way. But to be honest, I don't really count Firefly as in the universe of Alien and Predator, because I just don't see it there. There's not enough good connections. And also the Alien movies are very heavily anti-corporation. Well, Firefly is very anti-big government and anti-imperialistic. So I just don't really think the themes and just the connections, I just don't think it really connects. So there's the Weird Age, which might be the weakest age. And then you have from 2010 to 2018, you kind of have sort of the rebooted age, or you have Predators, and then you have the two Prometheus, Alien Covenant, Ridley Scott movies. Then after that you have Blade Runner 2049, and then The Predator. And I think all of these movies are kind of about introducing new ideas in both franchises. With the Predator movies, it's introducing the ideas of these more stronger predators that are stronger than the predators that we've seen in the past, that are just genetically advanced. In the Alien, Prometheus and Alien Covenant, we go into the engineers and kind of see more of the backstory behind the xenomorphs. And then Blade Runner 2049 goes into the ideas of what the replicants can do and how they can actually breed their own kind. So I think there's that phase. And then the current phase that we're in, which goes from 2022 to now, and that consists of right now just Prey and Alien Romulus, which is sort of more safer movies. We'll talk about Alien Romulus, but I think these movies are more kind of taking these characters back to safer routes, but at the same time they are doing something new, but it's a way to reintroduce them again without doing anything too crazy, kinda. But anyway, let's get right into my ranking. Alright, so coming in at number 17, at the bottom, my least favorite and most hated out of all 17 of these movies is Alien Covenant. Yep. I hate this more than the AVP movies. This movie is just terrible, and the fact that this is made by Ridley Scott, who made, pretty two decent movies in the Alien franchise I'll talk about later, makes this. And not just that, he brought the writer that he worked with on Gladiator, and Gladiator is my favorite Ridley Scott movie, and the script that he wrote for this movie is just garbage. This movie it's not a good follow-up to Prometheus, doesn't really, do anything new besides it just shows that, oh, David was evil. They completely erased Noomi Rapace from these movies, and which is very sad because, Noomi Rapace, she, kind of broke out with those Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, that trilogy that she made in Sweden, and then, Prometheus, it was gonna be, her big debut in a big Hollywood blockbuster, and then she's just written out of the sequel entirely as not the main woman character that we follow in these movies, and it sucks because I like her character of Shaw. I like that character, and so now we just have to replace it with another white woman who is just not as interesting as Shaw. Most of the characters just suck in this movie. They're not that interesting. The only actors that I like in this is Michael Fassbender, of course. He's the only one kind of trying. I do kind of like his bizarre acting as he plays, the British android, and then he plays the American android. And also now I'm just realizing they kind of just did the same thing where they did the same thing with Aliens, where they kind of explained how the British sounding androids were the evil ones, Ian Holm was evil, but the American one by Lance Henriksen is the good one, and same thing with this for David, the British one is evil, and Walter, the American one, is good. Oh my god, it's they did the same thing. It's just ugh. And then but I like Danny McBride, but that's just because it's Danny McBride, and he would make a better sequel to a horror franchise with Halloween 2018. And just a lot of this other stuff just pissing me off. Just how the overall, they don't really do anything with the Prometheus follow-up, and they just basically retrade everything with the Alien movies. It has the same ending as a typical Alien movie. It just has just boring old aliens again, and it's nothing about it's interesting. It's one of the worst movies ever made. I hate this movie. I'm so annoyed, and I hate Ridley Scott. I'm sorry. I don't like him personally as a guy who kind of just took over this franchise by Dan O'Bannon and Robert Schusitz, and just kind of made it into this now this weird thing, and some days I'm just fucking Ridley Scott, man. So coming in at number 16 and 15 is the AVP movies. Look, I really don't hate these movies, but at the same time, I don't really like these movies. They're not good, and I just don't really care. I just go oh, to me, it's whatever. It's a whatever movie. Both. I think there was I think some of the gore in 2 was kind of cool from what you can at least try to make out. And I think AVP has some cool scenes in it, but it's just it's kind of lame for the most part, because it's just guys in snow suits, and there's no military, because it's just I don't have much to say about AVP. It's just it doesn't piss me off as Covenant, and I don't think it has that much stuff in it that's worth talking about. They feel it just overall they feel, I just don't like how cheap they feel. It's 20th Century Fox this. While technically AVP was the first one was a hit, it just doesn't feel like Fox actually tried at all with this movie. like, well, they didn't try to, like, you know, make it a grand epic. They made it very cheap and just have a very cheap cast besides Lance Hendrickson, and it's I just don't care. I just don't care for it. I mean, the only really cool thing about these movies overall is just that Queen Alien animatronic looks amazing, and it supposedly is like one of the most like advanced animatronics ever. And obviously, it's like it's like one of the last cool animatronics on film, because, you know, this is the 2000s, and this is like where this is really the beginning of like the gap between CGI just taking over in general, because like, you know, you go back like 7 years, like Alien Resurrection, and, you know, that movie has like a combination of puppets and like CGI, because that's how it kind of was in the 90s. Still, there was a good balance, and now this is like the 2000s still, like, and this is like crossing over to the bridge into like just the 2000s, where everything is just CGI. There's not enough, like, you know, actual practical effects and puppetry in it, and it's just lame. But the alien animatronic in this movie is amazing, and that's like the only good thing that I can really just say for the both of them. So coming in at number 14 is The Predator. Now, if you saw my video from 2 years ago when I talked about all 5 of the Predator movies, well, standalone Predator movies, I think I really was very harsh on this movie a bit. I haven't rewatched it, but I remember seeing it, and I'm just kind of annoyed by this movie, but mainly because I thought the autism stuff was just kind of weird, and just like, I mean, looking back, it's still like a weird idea that I wish they just like, that Shane Black and the other guy just did not, or like Fred Decker, they just didn't write at all, because it's just so weird. And I think a lot of this, like, it is just another like weird 20th Century Fox like interfered like mess of a project. But that's mainly because a lot of the editing is just kind of weird at times, of how they like introduce Olivia Munn's character, how they don't really explain a lot of things, like, oh, like what happens, like there's a, like, they get an RV somewhere in the movie, you never see them, but all of a sudden, like, Boyd Holbrook and all of his like inmate loony friends, like, they all suddenly get an RV. It's like, when did that happen? They head to a motel, and you're like, how did they get into that motel? It's just like you can really tell a lot of this movie was cut probably to keep the time, like, you know, the movie down, or just didn't work. They didn't have enough time for reshoots. But especially that last scene, the reshoots are very apparent, just because like how they everyone looks like very different. They look a lot older. Well, especially Jacob Tremblay, who looks like a regular middle school kid, like he's supposed to in the film, but then all of a sudden he's like a regular teenager, and it's like, what? And also, like, the way they kill off Sterling K. Brown is like very quick, and you don't even know what happened. But I gotta say, like, that is one of the best parts. I do really like Sterling K. Brown in this. That's kind of like the human antagonist. He's actually kind of fun, and I don't really know what's gonna happen to his career of yet. But like Boyd Holbrook, seeing as this is like the only like film that he's in, like, where he's like, you know, the main character. He's not like a character on the side. He's not an antagonist like he is in Logan or Dial of Destiny. I seeing him as like the cool like main lead is interesting to see, and kind of fun, because this is probably like the only movie we're gonna get with him as the lead. And I think I was also a little too harsh on Shane Black a bit, but like, I do think this movie, look, I think it does have its fun moments, because I do like the performances from, like, you know, Keegan-Michael Hall, or Keegan-Michael Key, Thomas Jane, the guy who killed John Wick's dog, the guy with the long hair. Yeah, I didn't really remember their names, and then also the older was like Tyrone from Moonlight. This is also like his, you know, this is like the big blockbuster that he did after Moonlight. So that's kind of that you know, I like his performance. The only weak part I just think is really just Jacob Tremblay, because I just think that factor just does not work, and it's just kind of weird. But overall, I do kind of like that it's, it was rated R. It has like its fun gore effects. Some of the Predator action is kind of cool. I do like the super, what is like the upgrade Predator. He's cool. I think just overall this movie has a lot of its faults, but overall it is a pretty cool movie at times. It just has a lot of stupid stuff, but it can be kind of cool. So coming at number 13 is Prometheus. So look, I like this, obviously a lot better than Alien Covenant because I think overall, I like what it had. I just think more of the ideas are interesting. Still not a perfect movie, but I think Alien Covenant tried to just like bridge this movie and the alien schlockiness a little too much. But this movie, I think, on its own is an interesting movie about discovery into our way of creation, but also, obviously it has kind of a message of that, we should not always like go out to seek the answers because it might not be it'd be too hard for us to know. That's all really good and interesting. I just don't think enough is explained because I know David Lindelof went into his whole mystery box thing like he did with Lost. I've never seen Lost, but that's what I hear that he did that too much with this movie, and which I heavily agree. I don't think this movie. I think they should have just not really like opened up for more questions. I wish we actually knew more, like why the engineers actually wanted to destroy Earth. Why? Because I know like a lot of original drafts, it was because the engineer had like an alien in his chest, and that's why he was in hibernation. But I wish they did more. But then the other problem is that Ridley Scott was like just back and forth constantly on how he wanted it. If he wanted it to be more of its own thing, but in the Alien universe, or just a direct prequel to Alien. Which at the same time, I'm kind of like, I wish he just kind of did that because like it is a prequel. You don't have Ripley in there. This is before Ripley, so I think you can kind of get away with some of that stuff, and I wish Ridley just did that. Make it an Alien movie still, but add all these like interesting things about like the space jockeys. Even though at the same time, though, it's best that you should have just left that there to begin with. I've also had my other ideas, like what if, like, because I know Ridley Scott was asked to like wanted to do this for Alien 3 when I think he was asked. And then, like, instead of maybe even just making it a prequel, just what if you made it a movie where, like, it's, like, Ripley, Hicks, and Newt, and Bishop? What if it's them actually, like, discovering the origin of the alien? They kind of, like, get tied into the whole thing with the engineers. That would have been interesting. But overall, like, the other stuff I really like, besides kind of, like, some of the story stuff, is obviously the visuals are really good. The music is one of the best scores ever that I've ever probably heard from like the last decade. Like, that's original. Some of the acting, again, I like. Noomi Rapace is good in this, and it's sad that this is the only big blockbuster that she's in. I know she's in like other I think she's like in other English language stuff, but like nothing as big as like Prometheus, obviously. Michael Fassbender is pretty good. Idris Elba, he's great in everything, and he's also great in this. Even though it's weird that he's doing an American accent. Cause sometimes I just think like he should just stick to his own British accent. Charlize Theron is good, and Guy Pearce is just weird in this, in his old man makeup, which I don't know what to think about that. But then the rest of the characters are kind of lame. Like Noomi Rapace's like boyfriend, who I don't care for. I don't like the Sean Harris and Rafe Spall from Jurassic World. I don't care for those characters because they made the dumb decision to just like go off, like to just leave that air, leave the spacecraft area. That was just stupid. But overall, I mean, I get what Ridley Scott was kind of doing. Wish he did more of the alien stuff, but I do kind of like some of the stuff. Like, I do really like the ending where, like, the final shot of the alien, well, not really alien, coming out of the engineer. That scene is cool. Look, it's a movie with cool scenes, cool visuals, with interesting ideas, but should have had more, like, should have worked on it a lot more than this. So coming in at number 12 is Alien 3. I kind of like put this and Prometheus together because, you know, I admit they're not perfect, great movies, but I think they both have, like, the same elements of, like, interesting ideas in there. Obviously, you know, great, you know, production designs. It looks great. The music is great. All of that is there in this movie. And Alien, but I mean, obviously, Alien 3 has the biggest issue though of like killing off, you know, Newt, Hicks, and then later Bishop in the movie, and just big letdown because, you know, you care for these characters, and I'm not big on that part of this movie, because I kind of wish, like, you know, I said before, I just wish we had another adventure with them dealing with xenomorphs, and I know even like they wanted this movie to be like Hicks as the main character, but which would have been interesting. But obviously today they wouldn't, because I mean, it's kind of now expected that every Alien movie has to star a female. I'm not saying that's wrong, but it's a little manufactured into these films a bit. But there's that. But that's my only kind of issue, and well, that and also like how, you know, Alien. It's a movie about this one alien in this condensed space. Then you got Aliens, and it's just all out war between, like, you know, space marines and aliens. And Alien 3 kind of just goes back to what Alien was, but now it's in like a prison. And like, I talked about this in my David Fincher ranking, and they say this place is maximum, but it's like bullshit. This is like, there's like no real security here. Like it's such a weird prison. And that's because this movie, like this, the film that we got is just a weird combination of the script where like it was gonna be on a planet of monks and it's gonna be made out of wood, and then the one with the prisoners. So they went with the script with the prisoners and the monks, and that's why they had this whole thing where the prisoners have like a religion, which is it's interesting, but it's very obvious though that this is from the monks. So some of that stuff is from the monk script. So there's that, you know, that's very annoying. But overall, to just go back to just one Alien, a bit of a letdown because, like once you go from Aliens to this, it's just like you kind of just have to keep it up with having it have like aliens in there. You know, that's my big issue with it. But overall, I think the sets are amazing. The acting from primarily Sigourney Weaver, Charles S. Dutton, and Charles Dance is really great. And some of the you know, puppeteering is really good, and I think some of the ideas of the religion is interesting. So that's what I think of Alien 3. It has its moments, a little bit of a disappointment, but I think Alien 3 and Prometheus have like the same things going for it, where there's a lot of weird stuff, but there's a lot of good stuff. So Soldier from 1998 was directed by David Webb People, who was the co-writer on Blade Runner with Hampton Fancher, who would do Blade Runner 2049, but David Webb People did not. Instead, he wrote this movie, which is not technically a sequel to Blade Runner, but it does take place in the universe. I think there's like a speeder in one shot, and I think like the robots that we see in the movie, I think they're meant to be kind of like replicants, because they are kind of like soldiers, kind of like what Roy Batty is in the first Blade Runner. So those are kind of like the connections, and I can kind of see it with this movie as like a movie that kind of takes place in between Blade Runner and 2049. Even if it is like, this is like the time we kind of see like some of the off-world stuff. It is interesting, like how you see, like, because like most of the movie takes place on this one planet, but that he kind of comes across where, he meets friends. You have Connie Nelson there, and also The Thing, the actor himself, Michael Chiklis, is also there. And, it's Kurt Russell as the soldier, kind of like learning to what it means to be part of like a family and a group and a commune and stuff, when like he's been raised, from birth, he's been raised to be a fighting machine. So all that stuff was like, very interesting, and seeing what like an off-world planet in this world kind of looks like, and we're like, well, it's like more of a junk planet. So I liked all that interesting, all of that interesting stuff. And then like you have Gary Busey, who famous, like I think he wanted this character to also like be very low tempered, unlike his other characters. Like in another movie in this franchise that we'll talk about soon, is very low tempered. But then you also have Jason Isaac, who is obviously great in most of the stuff he's in as like the main villain, and it's that, and also just the production design is pretty cool for the most part, and the fight scenes are cool with when it's just him going up against the other soldiers. It's a very underrated hidden gem by Paul Anderson during his like early ages, and I don't have that much to say. It's actually a pretty cool underrated hidden gem that I wish people could check out, but it's not really streaming anywhere, so you're gonna have to watch this movie illegally.